This is Heavy at Home, the All-Australian program, every Monday night from 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. And I have my good friend with me here, Lucius Borich from The Nerve, out and about, of course, touring, as he always does, and supporting the brand new record from The Nerve, the long-awaited debut record, Audacity. So let's get acquainted with Lucius right now. G'day, buddy. How you doing?
Good, Haugie. Really, really good. Thank you.
Well, it's good to finally catch up with you, and again, it's always great to, watch you do your thing live, and how's things been with the reaction of The Nerve, because I know that we did feature the two singles before the album dropped, and I know that the anticipation's been quite strong, leading up to this sort of debut record. Has it met your expectations from audience reactions?
So far, so good. Every, venue we've played, people have been completely enthusiastic and losing it, loving it. I've had some really great comments about the, when they first put the record on and how they felt when they first heard it, and that was nice to hear. I think after 2.5 years of a long process, people are feeling pretty good about it, and so are we. We're feeling pretty jazzed too.
Now, when you mentioned about the reactions from people, when I first heard it, knowing your background of music as well as, of course, Ezekiel with Mammal, it really is what you hear is what you get live, which is, I think, lacking a little bit today in a lot of heavy music, because a lot of bands are using the trickery of studio tricks and things like that, whereas it just sounds, again, for a better word, organic, in the sense that it's a real live band, and it really shows that that's what you guys are best at doing, being a live band. Do you feel the same way when you wanted to put everything on tape, when you listen back to the record knowing that it captured exactly what you guys deliver?
Well, this album was made, every member lives in different parts of the world. So we've got Glenn in Prague, I'm in Sydney, Australia, and the other two boys are in Melbourne, Australia. So it was a lot of file sharing. It was a lot of, cut and pasting songs together, sending files to the point where we finally had the foundations of what we thought was going to be good songs, and we could capitalise on that. I went in and basically redid my drums, recorded them myself in my studio, and I edited some, because we never rehearsed as a band. There was never really a time to get in and kind of like flesh out parts, and all I did really was just lay take after take after take, paste what I thought together was going to be good, and then kind of learn that and then redo the track, and make sure that was a solid kind of take that I wanted. Now that was taken into production in the sense that it got locked onto the grid, as you're saying. A lot of that happens, but what I found was the flow completely was lacking. I couldn't feel my pulse anymore, and I was just sounding like a machine. I'd lost, the identity was lost, and for me, that's an important part of who I am and how I play. So I don't want that groove to be compromised. So it was important that I basically said, look, I just want it, just take it off the grid, just let it flow naturally. If it pulls and pushes here and there, that's okay. I want it to be live. I want it to sound live. I don't want to sound like a mechanical record that's locked into the grid. And that was a really important aspect of it, We used the tools that you have, that you can do now, recording-wise, because we weren't in the same space. So it was very, quite, I guess, what's the word? Just challenging trying to put it together. But yeah, I find this record is a complete representation of what we can do live. We've tried to make sure that every take was, wasn't an over bastardized, take after take, and scrutinized. It was just pretty live, but not done in a live environment. So it was quite hard. But we tried to keep it as true as we can to when we get out and do the live thing. I think it is a good representation of that. I think when people come to see the band live, they're going to get that. Probably even better version, because now we've played the songs in a bit more. And we're feeling even more comfortable within the the skin of the music. So you could say that it's lacking a little bit, but what I would reflect on is that I think there's an important part of us, organic part of us, that is man, that is part of nature, And, you know, that drum beat, that primal drum beat, which actually, you know, the voice and the drums were obviously the first forms of music. If we want to sound like a machine, we can. That's easy. But if we want to keep that organic self, that's going to be an important part of, you know, staying true to who we are. And there is that, I guess, while some people have got a fear about it, there is, you know, there's even an agenda about it to, you know, merge man with machine. Some people think that that's cool. Some people kind of think that that's not so cool. And I think it's actually really important to keep an integrity and be honest and be original and be who you are, you know, with your thumbprint, your, you know, like a snowflake's got its own pattern. You know, it's not one generic thing. Like as if any drummer now can get put on the grid, all the music can get put on the grid, and it's lost that, you know, organic pulse. So that organic pulse is a real resonating, effective thing that we can speak on other levels to each other with. You know, and I'm okay with machine music. I like electronic music. You know, I like bands, you know, that can sound, you know, very cut to the grid and all the rest of it. But the point I'm trying to make is just to, you know, just be aware of that. You know, obviously when people are going to come and see you live, if you're failing to meet the mark on, you know, being as tight as being compressed into a grid on the you know, on the recording side of things, they're going to walk away and say, well, they're not as good as the record, or I was a bit disappointed because they don't sound who they really are. And when I produce records, I've expressed to drummers, well, I can sit here and, you know, cut and paste you to the point where, you know, you're completely on the grid, but, you know, that's not really a true representation of who you are, and it's not really going to make you a better musician. I think a lot of the musicians of the past were good musicians because, you know, they had, the only thing they had to play against was each other and their own heart and their own sense of time. So now we're getting a man-made sense of time within the Pro Tools or whatever, you know, system you're using. And yeah, we're kind of losing that, you know. And I can understand for obviously recording reasons. Some people say for compression and, you know, it sounds a lot more slammier, and, you know, you get your engineers that'll say I like because it's all in alignment, you know, so it pushes the air, which I can dig that and appreciate that. But I think there's an important thing to be realised is that we are human, and that aspect has to be, you know, supported, nurtured, you know, and we can move on being the man, you know, the living man, you know.
Now let's go back to, of course, your amazing past as a musician. I mean, Haug is heavily still played and supported on andrewhaug.com, and obviously Floating Me and many other bands you've been with. What keeps you driven to be a musician, especially with the amount of amazing work you've already created? Do you look back on what you've done already so far and compare to where you're at now? I mean, how do you feel about your, I guess, legacy of music so far?
When I look at it, I'm proud to be part of the creative process, and I think that that's what I've learned from this experience is that, you know, everything here in nature is created. It's part of creation. So if I'm not creating and being a part of creation, being creative, you know, I could be a slave to somebody else's, obviously, a creation or agenda. So to wake up every day and have the opportunity to create is what I look forward to and what I strive to do. And if that means, you know, I'm playing in another project, so be it. And I've got that, you know, part of myself that just likes to keep active. I think also being a drummer, you know, you have to be on task, and it's a physical instrument, so you have to play a lot. So when you lose that and you get back on the kit, obviously it, you know, doesn't feel the best. So I just try and keep playing, you know, and if there's a gig to be done and it's, you know, in a different format or a different style, I do it. If there's a band that wants to record some music and maybe get out on the road, I do that. And I'm just, you know, open to the creative process, and that's what keeps me in that realm. You know, I'm only striving to be creative in every sense of the word.
Now, when I look at, like I said, your sort of past, most of them pretty much are kind of different to each other, yet you've got such your own personality on anything you play. And I think, as we mentioned before about bands and stuff using studio trickery, which again, it's all well and good if that's what you're going for as a musician. I really believe a lot of personalities are being lost in that sort of format, whereas I know that when we get a recording from yourself, yeah, we know it's you, but you really hear that it's you because of your own personality of what you've put on previous works. What do you say to, I guess, up-and-coming, bands and drummers and things like that about trying to leave their stamp?
You've got to lose the aspect of trying to be somebody else or wanting to be somebody else or sound like somebody else. And I think with your own shoes that you've walked in through your experiences that you've had in life, hopefully you can summons them up and they can be part of your playing style. I learnt when I was younger to copy a lot of the great drummers, Buddy Rich and as best as I could, Billy Cobham, Steve Gadd, Tony Williams and Stuart Copeland, and I really copied a lot of those guys and learnt from them, and I learned all the paradiddles and all the rudiments and everything. But then basically I got to a point where I just kind of kicked that all to the side and threw it out the window and just said, well, who am I? What am I contributing to music in my own way? And that's when the journey of, kind of, not that I was trying to create my own identity, but I just didn't want to know too much about anybody else's. I just wanted to use my experiences in life of what I do, what I've had, the relationships that I've had, and, use those to express on the drum kit, taking in, whatever paradiddles and whatever things I'd learnt that are part of drumming. It's kind of like you learn your letters in your alphabet, you create the words, and then you can put the sentence together, but the sentence is your story, and that's what I try and reflect on the drums. And I try and just see what works for the music too, like I listen to what the band is doing, where it's going, and I'll be sensitive to that. I'm not trying to prove anything other than to make my parts make sense within the music. And that's about it, really, and then the passion of playing live is a different thing altogether, it just depends on the type of day I've had or, the experience I've had that, again, I kind of summons that up and bring that and move that through in a cathartic way, you could say, just to express who I am on the drums, and my personality is probably what ends up shining through, opposed to, and they're the drummers I loved back in the day. Was like Keith Moon, he had a real personality, and Stuart Copeland had a real personality, and and Billy Cobham. They've all got these really strong personalities, and they were more living on the edge of drumming. It wasn't perfect. And they were flying by the seat of their pants, but they were, obviously being very, very passionate about their playing, and they were putting in a lot of passion to their playing, which perhaps gets lost a little bit. It becomes too mechanical, it becomes too contrived, it becomes too thought out, and that can work for some people, but I definitely try to live a little bit more on the edge and in the moment and not make the same move twice, if I can help it.
How do you want fans who are obviously massive fans of your previous bands to, take to the Nerve if they're sort of maybe apprehensive or not sure how to adapt to it? Because, again, from what you've done with Cog to the Nerve, they're definitely worlds apart, even though, as I said, your personality is still all over it because that is you writing the music and playing the drums. But how do you want people that are curious about approaching, the music of the Nerve?
That's up to them. I've got no agenda other than to kind of like please myself in the role that I'm playing, like whether I'm playing in Cog or the Nerve or the Hanging Tree or Juice. I'm playing music, I'm playing drums. My role in community, within society, within the people that come to see is to make them walk away with a smile on their face and feel good about what they've just experienced, and that they can take that into their lives and be creative, and hopefully I'd like to think that I can inspire people to be creative instead of a corporate slave or doing something they don't like to do, to get up in the morning, and that means wearing a few different hats in different projects, and if I can provide, you know, grooves and beats and different ways of looking at playing drums, and it kind of works for drummers and people who just like music, awesome. You know, I just want to make sure that people dance and pretty much have a good time, walk away with a smile on their face. You know, that's my job, really. You know, and that's probably one of the foundations that, you know, drummers don't realise, is that there's an important role within community that we play, that we are the beat shaman doctors. That's what we do. That's our role. It doesn't have to be, you know, an incredibly technical groove or beat. It can be as simple as, you know, an AC/DC groove or a Rolling Stones groove, but you've got all those people dancing and having a good time, and, you know, moving through their next day feeling fantastic about what they just experienced because they danced. They had a joyous, you know, moment, you know. That's why people love music so much, because they walk away with that feeling, you know, and that's an important role that we play. Other than thinking, oh, we've got to be this famous, you know, band or person or whatever. That's, you know, that's a corporate illusion, you know, kind of version of yourself. You know, what we do as musicians and drummers is a lot deeper. It goes back a long way. You know, we're talking, you know, that's what it was about. You know, the voice and the drums was about song, dance, ritual, expression of, you know, what was going on. And I think it's important for us to hold that space if we can, and not get too wrapped up in the bullshit, you know, illusion of the corporate side of music, you know, because that's where you sell your soul and you lose your soul, and there goes your relationship with your instrument when things are tough, you know, and you go, oh, you know, woe is me. And I always try to reflect that you've got that relationship with your instrument, and that's the most important thing that should be nurtured, you know, because it'll be there with you for life, like a good friend, you know.
Well, thanks again for your time, buddy. We can get you to choose your favourite track from the latest record from the Nerve, Audio Audacity, and again, for old time's sake, because we do play a lot of Cog on the station, your favourite Cog tune as well.
Let's go with Excuse Me with the Nerve, and with Cog, let's go with Problem Reaction Solution.
Fantastic lyrics. All right, thanks again, Lucius. Let's check out some Nerve and Cog here on Heavy at Home on andrewhaug.com.
Thanks, Hoagie.